I am turning 26 this year, which is exciting and kind of scary, but I have I have five things that I want to share that I've learned in my 25th year of life, and I have them written down so I don't forget anything. The first one is that softness is not a weakness, it's wisdom. And this is something that I've been preaching in my content for months now because it's something that I've been actively unpacking and actively learning. The truth is, for a long time, I thought that I needed to harden myself to be respected, to be viewed as, to be taken seriously, to be viewed as mature and polite and put together. I thought that it required a hardening in my heart. And that came from a good place, I suppose, of wanting to be, successful and to be valued. But ultimately, it ultimately ended up with me walking through the world being very numb and very emotionally desensitized and turned off. Um, and it took a long time to chip away at the edges of my heart that had completely hardened, and there was like a scar tissue built around it. It's been about 2 years of working on that, and I'm still working on it. But I would say now I'm a very deep feeler. I'm a very big baby. I cry all the time. And it's honestly something that I love about myself now. I love that I feel deeply. I love that I am in tune and in touch with my emotions. And um, yeah, I think I'm making up for lost time with the amount of tears that I've cried over the past couple of years. That's not in a sad way. Of course, part of it is there's been emotions, but it's in a beautiful way too. I've dealt with a lot of grief over the past year. I've dealt with a lot of, mourning of what I desire from my life, what I'm, trying to be content with. And so, yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest things I've learned this year. Softness is power, a quiet power. The second is that solitude is a gift, and that comes with an asterisk. Singleness is something to cherish, and at the same time, it is something to mourn if that's not what you desire. I have come to the realization now that I am turning 26 and I am single, and many of my friends are getting married or in long term relationships, and I feel deep joy for them. I've come to the realization that people are deeply uncomfortable or don't know how to console you if you're single and don't want to be. Um, there are a few things that people always say, and none of them are comforting. um, it's either have you put yourself out there enough? Which is like, okay, I guess I'll just like wear a sign on my forehead and walk around with a I'm single sign. There is, it will happen when you least expect it. It'll happen when you're not looking. It'll happen when you're not thinking about it, which is just, kind of gaslighting my feelings. There is, I'm so glad I'm not you, which is like the people who are like, I'm so glad I'm not in the dating pool. I'm so glad I'm not having to deal with that right now, which doesn't feel good. And then there's the you actually don't want to be me, because it's people who are not happy in their relationship. So it's people who are saying, thank thank God you're not married, or don't ever get married. The adults who always say that, don't get married, don't have children. It's terrible. Um, None of these things are helpful. And I just want to highlight for the people that yes, I'm deeply aware that singleness is a gift and that I have an abundance of free time, an abundance of time and space to dive into self discovery, and that is what I'm doing. I am doing the work. I'm preparing myself, and at the same time, I'm also yearning and longing for love, and I think that that's valid, and I want partnership, and It does feel like I am stagnant in a waiting period because there are steps that I would like to take in my life that I do not feel I'm capable of doing without a partner. And so I think that there's some work to be done in the community on how to help people and how not even to help people, but just to like listen and acknowledge those feelings and not try to fix them. Um, and to just have a bit more compassion around that because I think that's a real thing that people are not um, empathetic towards because there is like a big hole in my heart that's waiting to be filled by a partner. And I think that people kind of just like roll their eyes at that from a place of, not being there anymore. But I think we've forgotten that it can feel very lonely. So, solitude is a gift, and you're allowed to be sad if you don't have a partner and you want one. My third lesson that I've learned is to be her now. This is something that I learned that's something that I initially heard at a women's entrepreneurial conference, High Vibe Women, in um, in October. And it's something that has sat with me, and I've been kind of stirring over it and thinking over it. And it's the fact that I need to embody the version of myself that I want to become. And we all need to do that. We need to act as if we have already become that person. And then once we set our eyes on something, we are drawn towards it. We become it slowly. So I've been working on getting very clear on my vision and on my goals and trying to take small steps every single day to becoming that person and acting with the confidence of that person. How would I act if I had a Forbes a Forbes business, or like how would I act if I was a multimillionaire? Or and it's not even in like it's not in a materialistic way, but it's in an embodiment way. How would I act if I had everything I desired in my life? And then how can I be that now? What does that person look like? What do they sound like? Who do they surround themselves with? So how can I embody that person? I have also focused on taking the time to dream. Like I said, getting clear on your vision, taking the time to really dream, but also with that, taking action. Because I was stuck in dream mode for a while, for a few months, where I was just like, my journal was just full of ideas, ideas, ideas. And I hadn't started any of them because it felt a little bit daunting, and I think that's valid, but we need to be in a place where we can break those down and have steps towards getting to those big ideas. So, because I had these big dreams of being this huge entrepreneurial force, I was, you know, I was procrastinating sending a newsletter to my email list of 25 people. So with that, that's why I like to say, be her now. Take time to dream, but then also take the action because that's how we're getting to that place. And then make big asks. I got so many yeses this year that I would have never thought I would have received last year. And it just came from making big and bold asks of people. Most people want to help you. Most people want to support your work, and ultimately, many people see there's a benefit for themselves as well. So I think there was a lot of fear of the no, and I had to realize like the worst case scenario is that someone says no to you, or more likely, not right now, because that's if any of the no's that I received this year, it was not a hard no. It was reach back out to us in a few months or check back in with us next year when we're working on this again. We'd love to work with you in the future. So that's what I would say is make big asks, and that's how we embody the person we want to become. In a more spiritual tone of that lesson of be her now, removing myself from the entrepreneurial force that I want to become. Uh, I've been praying for more wisdom. I've been praying for more patience. I've been trying to spiritually and mentally prepare myself for the woman I want to become in terms of becoming a wife and a mother. And I know that sounds a little bit like, um, I don't know, maybe woo woo, but with my second piece of like singleness, I want to be able to say that I used this time well to become the woman that I want to raise my children as. Like I want to be prepared when I meet my husband and when I meet that person one day. So I want to be spiritually strong and um, extremely wise and not perfect because none of us are, but I really want to know that I used this time of singleness well towards self development. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time around young mothers this year, which I think was incredible because I asked them a lot of questions. Um, that comes into one of my next pieces, which is spend time around the people who you want to become. But yeah, I think that's really important. My fourth lesson is that the stories you're telling yourself are often not true. And this goes for many different areas of my life, but specifically this year, I was telling myself a lot of stories about not being successful enough or not being established enough to connect with certain people. And I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people this year who I extremely admired, who were achieving great things, creating large communities of people, established businesses, not only in monetary gains, but people with strong spiritual practices, incredible artists who I admire, just people who were one, a lot older than me, who had lived a lot more life than me and done a lot of more things than me as a result. And what I learned after meeting a lot of these people was yes, they imparted so much wisdom. They taught me a lot of things. I loved spending time with them, but ultimately, they're just people. They're just humans. And we know this, of course. I knew this, but the reminder was really important because the story and the narrative I was telling myself was just not true at all. These people had moments, had struggles, they had moments of humanity, they had things that they were working on, and we had a lot more in common than I thought we did. And I think that was an important reminder because it really, especially in the world of social media where people are putting on, their best version of themselves, um, it can often feel as though they're in a completely different echelon and level than you. And yes, of course there's levels to success and establishment, but ultimately it just kind of broke down some narratives, which was really healthy for me. Um, and I saw in a reel recently, someone was describing meditation, and he said that meditation proves and shows you that the voice in your head is actually not you, and it's the practice of meditating that helps you discover your true voice and your true feelings and emotions. And that reigns true for me. The constant little nattering voice in my mind of self doubt and self comparison is just not my actual voice. It's not what I believe about myself. Um, so yeah, the voices and the voices, the stories you're telling yourself are not true most of the time. My last big takeaway from this year was I truly aspire to always be the dumbest person in the room. And I say that kind of as a joke, but not really. I really am a sponge and a person who wants to be surrounded by people who know so much more than me. Um, I learned this a few years ago from multiple people who I admire, and I've thought about it almost every day since, um, because it's true. I am young, and I know that. Two, the more that I dive deeper into spirituality and faith, the more that I realize that I know nothing, and it's a good thing, and I submit that, and I release that pressure. Yes, I am a leader and a teacher, of the practice that I love, and I'm okay. I'm completely fine, and I love to be a teacher in that space. But and um, everywhere else, and even in that way, I want to be the dumbest person in the room because I want to be imparted knowledge on by people who I admire. I want to surround myself with people who I want to become. I saw a reel recently that said, "Your circle determines your ceiling." And I think that was incredible because it reigns true. The people who you surround yourself with are already deciding how far you can go and how much you can accomplish. And so, even if they don't say it to you, they're thinking it, and that has power. So I desire to surround myself with people who have achieved more than me, who um, have created larger things than me, who believe in me also. And I think that's important because it kind of like debunks your idea that it's not possible. Um, because quite frankly they've done it before, or they've done something similar, and they're willing to give you a hand to get there, or the path is just clearer because you know them and you know they exist and you've seen their roadmap. So, yeah, and then it just allows you to dream a little bit more. It allows you to dream even bigger. And the coolest part is, I actually believe those dreams. I actually believe that I will make them happen because I have this person right in front of me who's done it. So, yeah, that's the coolest thing. Always be the least smart or the dumbest person in the room. That's my goal. Okay, these are my 5 things that I've learned in my 25th year. Um, I have had a lot of reflection over this past year that I'm really, really grateful for. And I can't wait for what this next year brings. And I think I'm going to keep doing this every year because it's really special. And I'll talk to you soon.